with anyone. I could be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here with me. You could be around with me. You could be with anyone. I could be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here.
All right, so here we are with another My Take question. Now, this is a segment that I do where people don't necessarily call me and ask for advice because I don't like to give advice, but I just like to give my observations or my take on situations that occur in people's lives and just try to give different perspective. So here we go. This young lady wrote in and she specifically asked, am I justified in being disgusted with my boyfriend for abandoning his cat? Now, for some people, this is a no-brainer because for some people, the cats, the dogs, these are little fur babies. They see these cats as almost part of the cats or dogs or pets is part of their family. So when they talk about somebody abandoning an animal or something that they had committed to taking responsibility for, they definitely see it as a red flag, and I can understand that. Let's listen to what this person has to ask, and we'll give my take as we go along. All right? So don't forget, you guys can leave your take down below. I'm interested in finding out what you guys think and what your perspective is as well. So here we go. I don't know if I'm just being dramatic, but bear with me. Okay. You're not necessarily being dramatic. If you feel a certain way, you feel that way. That's all fine and good. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for 4 years. I graduated college a year ago, and since then, he has been talking a lot about moving in together. Now, moving in together, especially after college or after those big benchmark cornerstone events in your life, is a huge deal. Moving in with anybody is always a huge deal, even if it's a friend, because the truth of the matter is you can get along with people as friends and be, thick as thieves. Every time you see one, you see the other. But the moment you move in with somebody, you get to see the real them. You get to see a lot more of them. And in some cases, it just doesn't work out. Like you could have great friends who you could be fantastic with. Oh, that's my brother from another mother. That's my sister from another mister and all that. But the second you move in together, all that is out the window and you stop talking. So you always want to keep that in mind as well. So moving in together is in fact a big deal. He has had a cat for about 4 years. He was a stray that was outside his window and he started to feed him. Yeah, never feed a cat unless you plan on keeping that cat because once you feed them, they never leave. So he started to feed him and let him eventually come in. At first, he adored the cat and had been thinking of getting a pet anyway, so it worked out perfectly. And that's the way it works sometimes. You get, oh yeah, I'd love to have a cat. That'd be a lot of fun. But cats, pets, dogs are a lot of work. Cats seem to be less, hands-on as dogs are, because dogs you have to make sure you walk them and all that. Cats are a little more independent, but, cats are a little finicky in their personalities. And either way, if you go on long trips or you're going away for an extended amount of time or you're going to be out of the home for an extended amount of time, cats, dogs, or animals require you to make sure that you have some care for them. So there's always going to be something involved. And this is not discounting the fact that you have to make sure that they're being taken care of medically. I think a lot of people overlook that. Well, I don't bother taking my dog or my cat to the vet. It's very important that you take your animal to the vet, get them the shots and things that they need, make sure they're getting their checkups so that everything is in working order. It's just like going to the doctor for people. It's important. So cats, dogs, and pets can be very costly or expensive in that regard, especially when you start talking about dogs. The bigger the dog is, the more expensive the dog becomes. So just something to keep in mind. He bought all the supplies and seemed to really enjoy having the company. Okay. That started going downhill about a year later. So he's not a long-term guy. So he enjoys the short-term newlywed portion of the relationship, but he doesn't do well with the long commitment. That would be a red flag. I moved in with him for about 3 months during a gap between my family leaving a house to move to another house. It was at this point I realized that I was allergic to the cat. Oh, wow. Okay. So you moved in with the cat and you started realizing that you might have an allergy to the cat. Now, here's a funny story. When I first started dating my wife, she had cats. She's a cat person. I'm a dog person. And I'm allergic to cats. right? Or at least I was. And for whatever reason, maybe it was the power of love or whatever, but for whatever reason, as our relationship started to develop and as I went around more and eventually as we progressed in our relationship, I didn't have any issues with cat. In fact, she had a cat. She had the first cat that I ever really truly liked. Little Jay. We call him Jay. He was a cool cat. Cool cat, like a dog. Like Jay was my cat dog. So I got over being allergic to cats. So it can happen. Not saying it's a plan, but it can happen. I wasn't initially too concerned. I took allergy medicine, brushed the cat regularly, and swept up, and kept him off the bed, and that helped out a lot. Okay, I didn't take medicine, but that is an option that you can take medicine, but it is something to consider, especially as you're planning to expand your relationship and take that next step in your relationship. The animals and how you deal with them is going to be a point, or could be a sticking point. The issue comes in with the fact that my boyfriend hates cleaning up after the cat and feel like it's too much of a task. Oh, wow. So he doesn't like cleaning up after the cat. Does that mean, because apparently she was doing all the cleaning as far as, petting the cat or brushing the cat out, making sure all the hair and stuff is removed. So the cleanup of the cat is most likely the pan, the litter pan, and cleaning around the water dish and maybe the food bowl. So he's not liking that, so which indicates to me that he doesn't really want to be a pet owner. And it's good that you figure these things out. Doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person or you're going to be a bad parent or a bad lover or whatever the case may be, but these are things that to kind of put into the Rolodex, or at least into the old computer, as you're trying to calculate whether the relationship is going to work out and what type of person he is. Not saying it's a determinative factor, but it's certainly something that you can put in to try to make that assessment. After I moved back with my family, he rarely brushed him or swept, and the hair began to just pile up within his place. Patches would collect in the corners. You could see it floating in the air and on every surface of his place. This dude don't like to clean. His house is dirty. You got cat hair floating in the air, bruh. You need to sweep your room, sweep your house. What are you doing? Yeah, the bachelor pad. Because I wasn't there to maintain it, the cat hair made my allergies a lot worse, so I wouldn't come over as often. Okay, so the cat being there started to impact your relationship. Now, in the present, we have been discussing moving in a lot. And while finances had been my main hesitation, okay, you got to get that paper in order, make sure that you guys aren't moving in and struggling with each other. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, but struggling is struggling. And it shouldn't be something you shoot for. So it's always smart to make sure that you're able to do it in a way, because truth be told, one of the big stressors of any relationship would be the finances in that relationship. People say that, fidelity breaks up marriages and this, that, and other. No, it's not always fidelity. Sometimes it's kids and it's finances. And sometimes those finances have a lot to do with those kids, because you're trying to figure out, how much you going to pay on birthday presents, Christmases, how much you going to go out, how far you going to go on the first birthday that the child ain't even going to remember. So the finances always play a part, and it's, even though it's understated, it's always there, and it should be held to some prominence. We'll go back now in the present. We have been discussing moving in a lot, and while finances had been my main hesitation, the cat was also a concern. The cat has had fleas multiple times because my boyfriend refuses to maintain flea treatment, claiming it is too expensive. Then it's too expensive for you to have a cat. Point blank. If you can't afford the flea treatment, if you can't afford to make sure that the cat is getting the shots and things of that nature, especially if it's going out. If it's leaving your home, the cat has to have those shots. And in some jurisdictions, if your cat is outside, your cat or your dog or whatever is outside the home, and it gets into any altercation, they're going to ask for that documentation. And this could cause for the loss of your animal if you don't have the up-to-date shot records. Just something to keep in mind. Check your jurisdiction, call a lawyer if you need to, but that's just something to keep in mind. I got a dog about 2 years ago after talking about it for over a year, and I'm pretty involved in his health and will not let him live in the house with a cat that isn't getting monthly flea treatments. And I can understand that because you want to make sure that your animal is being taken care of. And having your animal exposed to animals which have fleas or don't get flea treatments is problematic. And not to mention, if how do you move into a house where you're taking care of your dog but he's not taking care of your cat? The cat would also be your problem. So if he's saying that he can't afford to take care of his cat, then when you move in with him, he very well may look you in the face and say, I can't afford to take care of my cat. And instead of him framing it that way, he'll say, we can't afford to take care of these animals anymore. So that's also something to keep in mind looking forward or looking down the line as you're moving forward. I also had other concerns that he wasn't giving the cat the best life possible, but my boyfriend just felt like it was such a chore task and didn't want to. So he just felt like it was too much for him to do it, didn't want to really be bothered. That says a lot, especially if you're bringing an animal into the home that you care about. Because if he feels this way about his animal, he's certainly going to feel that way about your animal. So it's just something for you to think about. He started to get annoyed with me. He started to get annoying with his meowing all the time and spoke of kicking him out of the house constantly. During a brief breakup, me and my boyfriend he actually put him outside and he lived around the yard for months. Wow. Okay. That's cruel. He only let him back in because of the summer heat and was annoying hearing my concerns. So he was annoyed hearing her complain about the cat being outside. And like when people start being cruel to animals, especially their animals, that's a point of concern. Like the fact that he could put like he had a certain allegiance to the animal and he decided he was going to just put it outside and let it roam the yard is nutty to me. I mean, and the cat is crying because it wants to come in the house and it probably doesn't understand what it did wrong or why there's a shift in the attitude towards the cat. So, I mean, it's a very cruel thing that he did there. And I understand, like I said, that the one cat I was talking about, Jay, he was, even though he grew up in a home, he was essentially a feral cat. A feral is essentially a wild animal that you let live in your house. So you coexist with this animal. And that's kind of what I dug about him, is that he kind of had that rough edge. But he was like I said, he was a great cat, very gentle with people. Also with people. He was hard on anything he caught outside though. he was hard on them. He was gangster, but he was a solid cat, and I could imagine letting him go. Like anytime, like if he went out, there could be a time where he might be gone for a day or two, right? But every day you would be out calling him and you're looking for him, but you know he's coming back. He's just out doing what he do, because that's who he was. He was just outside, right? But I'm not locking him out. I'm not keeping him or barring him from the home, which is fundamentally different than what this guy is doing. He gets annoyed with the animal, he puts it out. So what happens when he gets annoyed with you? And that's where, like I said, the red flags would go up. It's not necessarily determinative of what he's going to do with her as a person in his relationship, but it's an indication. I suggested multiple times that if he didn't want to be a pet parent anymore, she used the word pet parent, so the fur baby, so now you're, this isn't somebody who is casually into animals. Again, you got to understand who your partner is with. If your partner is all about being a pet parent, then you can't mistreat your fur baby because they see it as part of their family. She sees the cat as part of her family or part of your family, and you're mistreating part of your family, and she's going to take note of that. So I suggested multiple times that if he didn't want to be a pet parent anymore, that he should surrender him to a shelter or a pound or just rehome him. But he kept saying that's too much work, or at times I thought he actually still enjoyed having the cat and just wasn't ready to let him. This kind of great. I'm trying to put it together. Still enjoyed having the cat and just wasn't ready to let him go, even if he wasn't being a responsible pet parent. So ultimately, it just comes down to selfishness. So either on one hand, either he's too lazy to actually take the cat down and make sure that the cat is being taken care of and given to somebody who can provide the cat the life and lifestyle that it deserves, or he likes the cat, wants to keep the cat around for his own selfish purpose and ends. And when the cat doesn't serve those purposes and ends anymore, he's done with the cat and he's ready to let it roam the street or basically neglect the cat. Either way, that's just it's a bad place to be. So we look at the next portion of what she says. It all blew up a week ago. He found a nice apartment that met all our desires and was a reasonable price, but I still said I wasn't ready to move until I had more saved and he paid off all his credit card debt. Now that's a huge thing.